I think. Oh, hello, everyone. How are you all doing on this Thursday morning? How are you doing, Steve?
I have been better. We are having some cat issues at home. One of our cats is really sick and will not make it. And it sucks losing a pet, and we're in the process of about to lose one.
We are, well, I can't speak for everyone, but I suspect I might be able to on this. Sending all the good vibes your way in terms of powering through all of this. And for anyone out there who doesn't know, like, Steve is an A+ cat dad. Any cat that lands in your house is extremely lucky and very, very, very well cared for. So
yeah, that's what we were talking about yesterday. Is that anyway, let's not stay on this subject. But like, yes, we love animals, and yeah, any cat that lands in this house is treated very, very, very well.
absolutely, I have so much respect for that. So we have a pretty full lineup today. There's a couple of big news stories, and we're kicking it off with our title topic for the day, which is a pretty significant update for the Movie Critic, something that, I mean, I most certainly wasn't expecting. I'm going to read a little from the Deadline article. They are the outlet that broke this news. Quentin Tarantino has dropped the Movie Critic as his 10th and final project. The way they describe it is he simply changed his mind. He was going to have Brad Pitt star in the movie. There were rumors that many from the casts of his past films were going to take part in this one. And there were also rumors that Sony might get involved in the film as well, given their very successful past collaborations. Word is that Tarantino had rewritten his script, which delayed the start of production. And then Deadline goes on to say, reportedly, he just had a change of heart and will not be moving forward with it. Sources close to the director said he changed his mind and is going back to the drawing board to figure out what his final movie will be. I also was looking at the THR article covering this, and they have an interesting little bit of information in their description of the movie. They wrote, set in 1977 California, it initially drew inspiration from a cynical movie critic that the filmmaker grew up reading. But sources say it morphed along the way into a film that would feature Brad Pitt as Cliff Booth, the stuntman he portrayed in his Oscar-winning performance in Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It is unclear if the film was going to be a prequel or a 1970s set sequel to Hollywood, but in recent weeks, Tarantino has had his change of heart, moved away from it entirely. Steve, when you saw this headline, did it shock you? Did you see maybe the movie hitting a wall?
I didn't think it was going to get canceled like this, or not made like this. But the truth is, it started with a female protagonist, and then it morphed into a whole bunch of other things. And I think that if Tarantino didn't have his heart set on making 10 movies, and all 10 being like perfect, if you will, that maybe he would have made this and tried to figure it out. I just think I think he's putting a lot of pressure on himself for his last movie to be this, great film. And maybe he just felt like this isn't, the great film, and that, trying to pigeonhole and shoehorn all this different stuff into it wasn't going to bring it together. And look, I mean, ultimately whatever he chooses to do, I am so excited to see. He is a auteur. He is a master filmmaker, and there's no one like him. And whatever he wants to do. And look, if he didn't think this was the one, let him go write something else. The biggest bummer is it just means it's going to be at least 2, 3, 4 years before we're going to see whatever he wants to do. And that's the bummer, is that it's just going to be a long time. And also the fact that he only wants to make one more movie. That's also terrible.
Just for a little clarification on that, he is only going to make one more movie, but this particular bit also came from the Hollywood Reporter article. He's expected to continue working in the creative field even after making this last feature. He had suggested directing limited series or plays those could be in his future. And then they also point out that he is now a novelist. So Tarantino won't stop being a creative individual, and we'll still see his work on screen if he does go the limited series route. But I'm with you, Steve. I just I don't want to wait any longer than I would have had to. So that's a little bit of a disappointment here. And ultimately, though, I have to, come to the conclusion that whatever he deems best, whatever he deems himself most passionate about, is the route that he should go. I I feel for the pressure he is under, having announced that this will be his 10th and final film before making it, because I feel like even if he knew that fact in his own mind and just didn't share it with anyone beforehand, the pressure would be high. But now that the world knows this is the last one, I just have to imagine that maybe a perfectionist mentality kicks in, and it just creates a really high pressure filmmaking situation, when literally every filmmaking situation is high pressure. So I don't envy what he's likely going through with this one.
But it also feels like he was taking a lot of ideas and trying to put them into this one movie, and it was almost like overstuffed. And maybe down the road, this is the kind of thing that could be a limited series, or take the idea and make an anthology. I mean, there's so many possibilities, and he can do whatever he wants, but I think as far as a movie, this sounds like it was just very crowded.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if he does go on to direct limited series, maybe these are ideas that we could see come to fruition in that particular format.
Sure.
You handed me a great transition, Steve, because speaking of concepts that can't be contained in a single movie, we have an update on Zack Snyder's plans and hopes for the Rebel Moon franchise. So this comes from the Collider.com article. The second half of Zack Snyder's space opera, Rebel Moon, is days away, yet the director's mind is already on the future of the sci-fi universe beyond that. Although Part 1, A Child of Fire, earned an icy critical reception upon its release in December, it also raced to the top of the Netflix viewership charts. Ahead of the release of Part 2, The Scargiver, this Friday, April 19th, Zack Snyder spoke to RadioTimes.com about a potential sequel to this pair of films. Snyder has made it no secret that he's eager to make a third Rebel Moon movie if he gets the green light, but he's now talking about making as many as 6 installments by the time everything is said and done. The specific quote is, "I guess 4 makes sense." And then he goes on to say, 4 or 6 movies, depending. I guess it's whether or not every time we make one of these movies, we make 2. That's the question. You're shaking your head, Steve.
Yeah,
Too
I have a
much?
lot.
6 movies is too much?
Listen, I have a lot to say on this. Okay, let me start by saying I am a fan. First of all, I didn't realize my camera was out of focus, and I don't know how to fix it. It's just not going. So sorry. Number 2, I'm a fan of Zack Snyder, and a lot of people think I'm not. I am a fan of Zack Snyder, but it all comes down to the numbers. And the first Rebel Moon did not do well at all. It was a bomb on Netflix. The reviews are terrible. So you're starting off like that. Number 2, you have Rebel Moon 2 coming out this weekend. If no one watched the first one, no one is going to watch the sequel, even if I've heard it's better. So there's that problem. But ultimately, there's a whole new regime at Netflix, like new leadership. Dan Lin just took over, and I'm sure he wants to do a clean slate. And look, the truth, I'm a huge fan of Netflix. Their TV shows are infinitely better than their movies. Their movies are basically terrible outside of select films that come along that are like, oh, wow, that's incredible. Leave the World Behind by Sam Esmail. Great movie. Roma. Great movie. Like, there's other movies. This is just 2 off the top of my head, but they do make occasionally a fantastic movie. But most of them are terrible, and you'll never watch them again. They're algorithm-based, and I'm glad that there's new leadership there, because the big issue is that they just make too many movies at Netflix, and what they need to do is make less and make each one better. And because if they start making better movies, it'll obviously be much better for all of us and for fans. But their TV is infinitely better. Anyway, I will bet any amount of money you want to place on the table that they will never make another Rebel Moon movie. And the bigger issue, the thing that I've said since the beginning, and I will keep saying, it was a blunder of epic proportions to try to make these Rebel Moons PG or PG-13 and not just release the R-rated version as the first film. And the reason I say this is that every single Zack Snyder film that is an extended cut or director's cut is 1,000% better than the theatrical cut. He likes to make R-rated movies, and you're pulling back everything into this PG film. And he's even said there's alternate dialogue, alternate stuff. Like in the first Rebel Moon, they go into this bar, but in the director's cut, it's going to be a brothel. It's a completely different scene. It's going to be a completely different environment. So I do think that the R-rated versions of these films are going to be the better version, and that those are the ones I want to watch, and that the PG movies are just not what I wanted, nor should they have released. And I know that's long-winded. There's never going to be anything beyond Rebel Moon 2, and they just made a mistake, and there's never going to be Rebel Moon 3 through 6. Never going to happen.
I mean, all like fair, worthwhile points to make. I will just add that Netflix's Fear Street movies also belong on that list.
Sure.
They are personal favorites, but to be honest, I have not seen part 1 of Rebel Moon. I was curious, and I thought some of the trailers looked really good. I think Zack Snyder is a visual master, so whenever I see early clips and images from his films, I'm always drawn in and curious, but I didn't see it. And then I started to read reviews and certain reactions, and it kind of fell to the bottom of my list, and I never really circled back. And I think that speaks to the problem in terms of Rebel Moon, but also other films that go this route where, you announce or fully commit to making multiple films before your entity is proven with a successful first film. So the cart before the horse mentality doesn't really work with filmmaking and franchise building, because what winds up happening is you give yourself an unclimbable uphill battle with the second one if the first one doesn't amass the audience needed to support a second film. I mean, it does say in the article that, the first one was at the top of Netflix's viewership charts, but the problem that we're having with that versus, let's say, theatrical release box office reporting is that all those reports are coming from the streamer themselves. So it's a little difficult to actually process how well a particular movie is doing. So who knows what those numbers actually amount to, and how much they tee up part 2 for success.
Perri, the thing is, Netflix now does release numbers in terms of how many millions of people watch a project. And what I'm saying is,
I saw
questions. But like their numbers for Rebel Moon, sure, it was number 1 for a week, or sure, it was in the top 10 for a few weeks, but it didn't make the numbers to be even close to the top 50 all-time Netflix things. And again, I have screamed this since the beginning. There should have never been a PG version of this movie. They should have made it R-rated, which is what's coming out, I think, this summer. And I will wager that movie is far superior to the PG version. And it's going to be the one where everyone's like, why wasn't this the release? Because he makes better R-rated movies. So we'll find out this summer, assuming that's when they come out.
Yeah, I'm so over that conversation already.
I mean, look, but there's never going to be more. There's no chance. It's over. This is just him talking.
Yeah, I suspect you might be right on that, but who knows? Maybe this movie comes out, everybody loves it, and I'll have to change my tune. And whenever I'm wrong, I'm happy to admit it. But right now, I'm siding with you on this, Steve. All right, our next topic is another interesting release that is coming out this summer. Of course, I put my notes for this in the actual description of the video and not in my little Word document. This movie comes out on August 9th. It is the newest movie from M. Night Shyamalan. It's called Trap. It is about a father and teen daughter who attend a pop concert where they realize they're at the center of a dark and sinister event. If you've watched the trailer, you, of course, know this stars Josh Hartnett, which very much excites me. I like seeing him on screen quite often in recent years, and this seems like a really meaty role for him to sink his teeth into. Steve, what did you think of the very first trailer for M. Night Shyamalan's Trap?
I thought the trailer was fantastic, and what I like about this is that normally with M. Night movies, the twist you find out when you're in the theater, and it's sort of hidden. And what I like about this is that it's a reverse twist. The trailer tells you that Josh is playing a serial killer, and he is trying to get out of the trap that he's in. And normally, again, like the way to also play it is you're watching the movie, and then you find out he's the serial killer. But I like that you go in knowing this. So it's like a reversal of the typical M. Night movie.
I know they reveal a twist in the trailer. With M. Night Shyamalan, I expect there to be another twist. Something absolutely shocking in the third act of this movie that turns the whole concept on its head. So I am preparing myself for that. I like this trailer quite a bit. I like the look of it. Again, as a big Josh Hartnett fan, I'm looking forward to seeing him play a complex headlining role. You could already see the heavy lifting he'll have to do to make a role like this work. But I also think that speaks to the movie overall. This concept seems like something that is either going to be real damn good or kind of like fall flat on its face. I don't think there's going to be any middle ground with a concept like this. So I'm curious to see which end of the spectrum it lands on. I am hopeful that it winds up being another M. Night Shyamalan winner, but this is going to be a challenging thing to sustain and I think make fully believable. I mean, my eye was already darting around the trailer looking for, I was about to say little traps, like little holes and things that might make the scenario less believable as it unfolds. But that's the thing with M. Night Shyamalan movies. Like they keep you on your toes. They inspire you to want to crack the mystery yourself. So hopefully this mystery is nice and sound and it sticks the landing in the end.
I have a lot of faith in Knight right now. He's been making a lot of films in a row that I've really enjoyed, and he just seems like he's entered a groove. And I like the idea, and I like the twist on this. And I like that they're not hiding it so you find out in the theater, his character. What I'm basically saying is really looking forward to this one.
Yes, as am I. I'm very curious to see how this one turns out. With that brings us to an end of this second to last episode of Collider Dailies. Tomorrow will be our final episode. Steve, I know you've got a busy day tomorrow, so I'm not sure if you'll be joining us. So the floor is yours. Do you have any parting words for our Collider Dailies crowd?
Yeah, actually, I wouldn't view this as the end of Collider Dailies. I would just say this is the end of this chapter. We have some ideas that we are thinking about. They're not going to be tomorrow and they're not going to be in a month, but I have an idea and a plan of what I'd like to do. And hopefully, in the coming months, we can get into it. But this is not something that is just going to, basically, I have a plan. I'll say it like that. I hope this is not the end. I don't anticipate this being the end.
I'll save more of my goodbye spiel for tomorrow, but in the meantime, I'll use it as an opportunity to direct you from this video on over to another really great video on this very YouTube channel, which will soon become Collider Dailies, Collider Ladies Night officially. Everything will change over on Saturday, and right now you can go and watch an hour-long conversation I had with Melissa Barrera. It's our third Ladies Night together. It's great. I don't take any credit for that. She's just a really good interview, someone who really puts a lot of thought into her answers and has a deep passion for her craft. So if you want to hear more about her journey over the past year and the making of Abigail, please head on over to that video after this one. Like, share, comment, all of that helps quite a bit. So with that, I will say thank you for watching this edition of Collider Dailies, and we will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific for our final episode.